You see, a queen never competes because she already knows who she is. She doesn't wake up in the morning and ask the world to confirm her worth. She already carries it deep within her. The world might try to make her forget, society might push her to compare, and people might challenge her light. But she never dims it. Why? Because her value doesn't come from what she has or how others see her. It comes from what she knows about herself. And once a woman knows her worth, competition becomes meaningless. When you know your own essence, you no longer run after validation. You stop measuring yourself through someone else's mirror. You stop trying to fit into places that shrink your soul. You realize that not everyone will see your light, not everyone will understand your heart, and not everyone is meant to walk beside you. But that doesn't matter, because you know that your purpose isn't to please, it's to be. To live authentically, fearlessly, and unapologetically as the person you were meant to be. So many people waste their lives chasing approval, building their identity on other people's acceptance, waiting for someone to say, "You're enough." But a queen doesn't wait for that. She says it to herself every single day. She knows her scars don't make her less. They make her real. Her softness doesn't make her weak. It makes her powerful. Her confidence isn't arrogance. It's clarity. She understands that when she stands in her truth, she doesn't need to compete for attention because her presence naturally commands it. The truth is, competition is rooted in insecurity. When you compare yourself to others, you're silently saying, "I don't believe I'm enough." But when you know your worth, you can celebrate others without feeling threatened. You can admire beauty without questioning your own. You can see someone winning and still feel at peace, because you know that their success doesn't take away from yours. The sky has room for every star, and the queen knows this. That's why she never tries to outshine anyone. She simply shines. In a world that constantly tells you to prove yourself, to be prettier, smarter, stronger, or more successful, it takes courage to say, "I'm enough as I am." That's what makes a queen different. She's not moved by trends, not defined by opinions, and not shaken by rejection. She's centered in herself. Her energy speaks before she does. She walks into a room with quiet confidence, not because she thinks she's better than anyone, but because she doesn't need to be anyone else-y. A queen doesn't chase what runs away. She attracts what aligns. She doesn't fight for a seat at someone else's table. She builds her own. She knows that the right opportunities will find her when she's aligned with her purpose. So, she focuses on becoming, not competing. She spends her energy on growing, not comparing. That's the secret. The power of her reign is not in her crown, but in her calm. The moment you stop competing, something incredible happens. Peace enters your life. You no longer waste time proving your worth, you live it. You stop asking, "Am I as good as her?" and start saying, "I am becoming the best version of me." That shift changes everything. Because when you no longer play small to make others comfortable, when you no longer explain yourself to people who don't understand your vision, you finally step into your power. A queen knows that her value cannot be negotiated. She doesn't lower her standards to be liked, doesn't silence her truth to be accepted, and doesn't chase what doesn't see her. She knows that anything built on needing validation will crumble. So instead of trying to be chosen, she chooses herself. Every time. She knows that real power comes from self-respect, from saying no when something doesn't feel right, from setting boundaries that protect her peace, and from walking away from anything that costs her dignity. When she looks in the mirror, she doesn't see someone trying to keep up. She sees someone who's rising slowly, gracefully, and in her own time. She understands that her journey isn't supposed to look like anyone else's. Her path is hers alone, and that's what makes it sacred. She trusts her timing, she honors her growth, and she believes that what's meant for her will never require her to compete for it. That's what it means to reign. It's not about having power over others. It's about having power over yourself. The power to stay calm in chaos, to stay kind in cruelty, to stay confident in uncertainty. It's about ruling your own emotions, mastering your own mind, and walking through life with the quiet assurance that you are enough. So when others compete, she doesn't join the race. She watches, she smiles, and she keeps moving forward. Because she knows that the moment she tries to prove herself, she's already forgotten who she is, and she refuses to forget. Her worth is not up for debate, her peace is not for sale, and her energy is not to be wasted on competition. She knows that when you are truly in alignment with your essence, no one can compete with you, because there's only one you. That's the beauty of her reign. It's effortless, unbothered, and timeless. And that's why a queen never competes. She simply reigns. A queen doesn't lead with her ego, she leads with grace. Her strength isn't loud, and her confidence doesn't scream for attention. It's something deeper, quieter. Something that radiates from the inside. You can feel it when she walks into a room. It's not arrogance, it's presence. It's not dominance, it's peace. Because she knows that real power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering herself. When a queen speaks, she doesn't try to impress. She doesn't need to. Her words carry weight because they come from understanding, not pride. She listens before she responds, and she acts with intention, not impulse. She knows that leadership is not about proving that she's better. It's about embodying what she believes in. Grace is her language, patience is her strength, and wisdom is her crown. You see, when a woman is still ruled by her ego, she tries to win every argument, be right every time, and have the last word. But a queen doesn't waste energy proving herself. She knows that not every battle deserves her presence, not every opinion requires her reaction, and not every challenge needs her to respond. She's selective, not out of pride, but out of peace, because she has learned that her energy is sacred, and she refuses to give it away carelessly. Ego wants control, grace seeks understanding. Ego divides, grace unites. Ego shouts, grace whispers, and in that whisper lies true power. The kind that calms storms instead of creating them, that lifts others instead of pushing them down. The queen understands that the people who carry the loudest egos are often the most insecure. They need validation to feel seen. They need attention to feel alive. But a queen doesn't. She's already seen by herself. She's already enough without applause. Her leadership is gentle, yet it moves mountains. She doesn't command respect. She earns it. People follow her not out of fear, but out of admiration, because she treats them with dignity. She leads from the heart, not the throne. Her grace doesn't make her soft, it makes her unshakable. Because grace doesn't mean weakness. It means strength with elegance, power without aggression, influence without force. When you lead with ego, you burn bridges. But when you lead with grace, you build kingdoms. The queen understands that every word, every action, every choice creates an energy around her. and she chooses to make that energy one of peace. Even when others attack her, she doesn't respond in the same tone. She knows that lowering herself to their level means giving them control. So she rises. Every time. She doesn't react. She responds. She doesn't fight. She flows. That's her strength. There's something magnetic about a woman who can stay calm when others lose their composure. Who can be kind in the face of cruelty? Who can forgive, not because she's weak, but because she values her peace more than her pride. That's the energy of a queen. She doesn't hold grudges, she holds lessons. She doesn't seek revenge, she seeks understanding. Because she knows that what others do is their karma, and how she reacts is hers. Her ego might whisper, "Show them your power." But her grace answers, "I already have." She doesn't need to prove her worth to anyone who doubts it. Their disbelief doesn't change her truth. She understands that trying to convince others of her value is like begging them to see what they're not ready to perceive. And she has no time to beg. Her focus is forward. Her heart is centered, and her spirit is aligned. It takes a different kind of strength to remain graceful in a world that rewards arrogance. It takes wisdom to stay composed when someone tries to provoke you. It takes power to walk away without needing to make a scene. That's what separates a queen from the rest. She reigns from within. Her peace is her weapon, and her calm is her crown. She knows that people remember how you made them feel, not how loudly you spoke. The ego always wants to win, but the queen isn't playing the same game. Her victory is inner peace. Her success is self-mastery. She doesn't compete for power. She is the power. Because grace gives her something ego never can: longevity. Ego burns fast and fades quickly, but grace endures. It leaves a legacy. It's remembered long after she's gone, not because she conquered others, but because she inspired them. In her kingdom, there's no need to shout to be heard. Her silence carries authority. Her stillness commands attention. She knows that a calm presence can shake the world more than an angry voice ever could. And that's why she leads differently, not with pressure, but with poise. Not with ego, but with essence. The queen doesn't lead because she wants control. She leads because she wants peace. She leads because she knows that true power doesn't come from the crown on her head, but from the balance in her soul. She has learned that the one who rules herself rules everything around her. And that's why a queen leads with grace. Because she understands that when you master your own energy, you never have to compete for control. You simply reign. A queen understands that her peace is her throne. It is the foundation of her strength, the quiet rhythm behind her every move. She protects it, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. She knows that the moment she allows chaos into her heart, she gives away her power. So, she guards her peace the way a queen guards her crown, not from others, but from the parts of herself that are tempted to react, to prove, to chase what doesn't serve her. In a world that glorifies noise and endless competition, she chooses silence. While others rush to be seen and heard, she steps back and listens. She observes, reflects, and decides with clarity. That's what makes her powerful. Her ability to stay still when the world is shaking. Because peace isn't the absence of noise, it's the presence of calm in the middle of it. And that calm is her true strength. When a queen protects her peace, it doesn't mean she isolates herself. It means she chooses carefully what and who deserves her energy. Not every conversation deserves a response. Not every argument deserves her presence. She's not afraid to walk away, Not because she's indifferent, but because she's evolved beyond needing to win meaningless battles. She knows that her energy is precious, and where she places it determines the kind of life she creates. There was a time when she might have reacted, defended herself, or tried to explain her worth to those who couldn't see it. But now, she understands that explaining herself is no longer her duty. Her peace matters more than proving her point. Her calm matters more than being understood, because when she chooses peace, she chooses herself. And when she chooses herself, she reigns. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to her energy. Not every situation needs her involvement. She has learned that protecting her peace often means disappointing others. But she accepts that, because she has stopped living for approval. She no longer carries the weight of others' expectations on her shoulders. She doesn't try to fix what isn't hers to fix, and she doesn't chase closure where chaos lives. She understands that her peace is worth more than the illusion of control. Sometimes, the most powerful thing she can do is to stay silent, to let go instead of fighting, to smile and move on. That silence is not weakness, it's mastery. It's knowing that her response doesn't define her, her peace does. She doesn't seek revenge, doesn't hold grudges, and doesn't replay conversations in her mind trying to make sense of what hurt her. She releases it all, knowing that holding on to pain only robs her of her present moment. Her peace is not a luxury, it's her survival. Because when her mind is still, her vision becomes clear. She can see who's genuine, who's draining, and what's worth her time. She doesn't allow negativity to shape her mood or toxic energy to linger around her. She cleanses her space, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, because she knows that everything she allows in will eventually grow. And she only allows what brings her closer to peace, not chaos. There's a quiet confidence in someone who refuses to be disturbed by the world's noise. Who can smile through misunderstanding, who can stay gentle in the face of aggression, who can walk away without hatred. That's the spirit of a queen. Her calmness disarms others because it's not expected. People don't understand how she remains so composed, but that's her secret. She doesn't give the outside world permission to disturb her inner world. Peace doesn't mean she avoids challenges. It means she faces them differently. She doesn't panic when things fall apart. She trusts that they're falling into place. She doesn't cling when something ends. She knows that endings are simply transitions. That's the wisdom that keeps her steady. Understanding that every storm will pass, and she doesn't have to become it. She can let it move through her without losing herself in it. To protect her peace, she creates boundaries, not walls, but gates. She decides who and what gets to enter her kingdom, and she does it with kindness, not anger. Boundaries aren't rejection, they're respect for herself and her energy. She doesn't explain them endlessly, she enforces them quietly. Because a queen doesn't owe anyone an explanation for what keeps her soul balanced. She knows that protecting her peace might make her seem distant at times, but she's not cold. She's preserving herself. She's learning that being at peace doesn't mean everything around her is perfect. It means she no longer allows imperfection to disturb her center. She doesn't chase happiness anymore. She cultivates serenity. Because happiness can depend on moments, but peace depends on mastery, mastery of the self. When her peace is intact, she can love deeply without losing herself. She can lead without controlling. She can give without being drained. Her energy flows freely because it's not tangled in negativity. She's able to move gracefully, to think clearly, to speak truthfully. And that's the kind of power that can't be taken away. Because it's not built on external approval, it's built on inner stillness. So she doesn't let the world's noise rush her. She doesn't let people's chaos confuse her. She takes her time, listens to her intuition, and moves when her spirit says it's right. Her peace guides her, protects her, and defines her. Because the woman who guards her peace guards her power, and the queen who rules her inner world rules everything. A queen understands something many people never do, that real power doesn't come from competing or defeating others, it comes from uplifting them. She knows that her light doesn't dim when she helps someone else shine. It grows. Because a true queen doesn't see other women as competition. She sees them as reflections of the same divine strength that lives within her. She understands that her reign is not about standing above others. It's about standing beside them, inspiring them to rise too. You can always tell when someone is ruled by insecurity. They gossip, they compare, they tear others down to feel taller. But a queen doesn't play those games. She doesn't need to prove that she's better, because she already knows who she is. Her confidence isn't loud or defensive. It's gentle, steady, and deeply rooted. When she sees another woman succeed, she doesn't feel threatened, she feels inspired. Because she understands that what's meant for her will never be taken by someone else. And what's meant for someone else was never hers to begin with. There's something magnetic about a woman who celebrates others genuinely, who looks at another's success and says, "Beautiful, keep going." That's the kind of energy that builds empires, that changes communities, that heals wounds the world doesn't even see. A queen doesn't rise by climbing over others. She rises by lifting others with her. And that's why her presence is unforgettable. She makes everyone around her feel seen, valued, and capable. She doesn't need to take their light. She helps them discover their own. Her strength isn't in comparison, it's in compassion. She knows that every woman carries battles that are invisible to the eye, insecurities, losses, doubts, heartbreaks. So instead of judging, she understands. Instead of criticizing, she encourages. She's not afraid to give compliments, to show support, to share her knowledge, because she doesn't fear losing anything by doing so. She knows that abundance grows when it's shared. Her heart is not small, it's expansive. She believes in the beauty of collective strength, in the truth that we all rise higher when we lift each other. A queen has no need for jealousy because she's too busy building her own peace, her own dreams, her own purpose. She doesn't waste her energy comparing paths because she knows that no two journeys are meant to look alike. What someone achieves today might take her longer, but she's not discouraged. She's patient with her process, proud of her progress, and secure in her timing. That security gives her the freedom to celebrate others without resentment. She also understands that not everyone will mirror her kindness. Some will envy, some will gossip, some will misunderstand her intentions. But she doesn't let that change who she is. She doesn't let bitterness infect her grace, because she knows that her role isn't to convince anyone of her goodness, it's to remain aligned with it. She gives from a full heart, not for applause, not for recognition, but because it's who she is. Her giving nature is not a strategy. It's a reflection of her soul. And when others try to compete, she doesn't join in. She teaches through her stillness. She shows that love, integrity, and compassion are not weaknesses, but the highest forms of strength. That real queens don't build thrones out of others' broken pieces. They build bridges. They open doors. They use their power to empower. That's what separates her from the rest. She's not moved by ego. She's guided by empathy. She knows that lifting others doesn't mean she forgets herself. It doesn't mean she becomes a savior or sacrifices her boundaries. It means she operates from a place of abundance. Her kindness is firm. Her generosity is wise. She knows that not everyone deserves her energy, but those who do will always feel her warmth. She gives without expecting, but never without awareness. She has learned that you can uplift others and still protect your peace. That compassion and strength can coexist beautifully. There's a different glow that comes from someone who genuinely wants to see others win. It's not forced or strategic. It's pure. It's the light of someone who has healed enough to stop seeing others as threats. That's what makes the Queen's energy so rare. She's whole. And wholeness doesn't compete, it creates. It multiplies love, confidence, and peace wherever it goes. She doesn't get caught in envy, because she understands that envy is born from lack, and she lacks nothing. Everything she needs is already within her. The grace, the wisdom, the beauty, the vision. So, when others rise, she celebrates, because she sees it as proof that she can rise too. There's room for everyone at the top when you stop believing that life is a contest. And she knows this truth so deeply that it's woven into everything she does. Her reign then becomes not a symbol of power, but of possibility. When people watch her, they feel inspired, not intimidated, because her presence says, "If I can do it with love, so can you." She turns her success into a message, her confidence into a mirror, her strength into a guide. She leaves behind not followers, but leaders, not admirers, but believers. That's what real queens do. They don't just rule, they raise. And that's why a queen never undermines. She uplifts because she knows that real queens fix each other's crowns without telling the world they were crooked. A queen knows that her power is not measured by how tightly she holds on, but by how gracefully she lets go. She understands that walking away is not a sign of weakness. It's a declaration of self-respect. It's a quiet truth she carries within her, that she doesn't need to beg for what's already hers, and she doesn't need to fight for what's meant to stay. When something begins to drain her energy, when a situation starts to pull her away from her peace, she knows it's time to leave. Not with bitterness, not with anger, but with understanding that not everything or everyone is meant to follow her into the next chapter of her life. There comes a point when she realizes that not every connection, no matter how deep, is meant to last forever. Some people come to teach, some to test, and some to awaken. But once the lesson has been learned, she doesn't cling to what has already served its purpose. She has learned the difference between attachment and love. Love allows freedom, but attachment demands control. And a queen never begs for love that requires her to shrink, silence her truth, or sacrifice her dignity. She understands that sometimes the kindest thing she can do for herself is to close a door, even when her heart still stands on the threshold. The world often teaches us to hold on, to fix, to try harder. But the Queen has learned that not everything broken needs repairing, and not every ending is a failure. Sometimes, letting go is the most courageous act of faith. Faith in herself, faith in the universe, faith that what lies ahead will be greater than what she leaves behind. She doesn't chase closure because she knows that peace is the only closure she truly needs. The need to explain, to justify, to be understood. She releases all of that. She knows that silence can often say more than 1,000 explanations ever could. When she walks away, it's not because she's cold-hearted. It's because she's learned that her soul cannot thrive in places where it's constantly questioned or diminished. She knows that love shouldn't be something you beg for, respect shouldn't be negotiated, and peace should never be the price of belonging. So she leaves with grace, not slamming doors, not throwing stones, but simply reclaiming her power and her peace. She doesn't need to announce her departure. Her absence becomes her statement. There is something profoundly beautiful about a woman who knows when to walk away. She doesn't stay in spaces that no longer honor her growth. She doesn't wait for someone else to realize her value. She doesn't force love to fit where it clearly doesn't. Because she understands that sometimes you have to lose people to find yourself. And sometimes walking away isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's life's way of clearing the path for what's meant to come. The Queen knows that real strength is not in endurance, but in discernment. She knows when to give and when to stop giving. She knows when to speak and when silence is the louder message. She no longer needs to be understood by those who choose not to see her. She no longer waits for apologies that will never come. Instead, she finds her closure in acceptance. Acceptance that not everyone can meet her where she stands. Acceptance that love doesn't always mean staying. Acceptance that endings can be sacred too. When she walks away, she doesn't do it with resentment. She does it with gratitude. Gratitude for what it taught her, for the lessons that shaped her, for the strength that emerged from her pain, for the clarity that came from confusion. Because she knows that every ending she's faced has led her closer to her truth. Every goodbye has created space for something more aligned, something real, something worthy of her. And so, she walks away not in defeat, but in quiet triumph. There's peace in knowing that she doesn't need to control everything. She trusts the timing of her life. She trusts that what leaves makes room for what's meant to stay. She trusts that letting go doesn't mean losing. It means creating space for something better. She no longer clings to what feels heavy. She no longer tries to rewrite what's already been written. She's learned that the universe doesn't take without giving, and every ending holds the seed of a new beginning. People often wonder how she can walk away so calmly. They mistake her silence for indifference, but it isn't that. It's wisdom. It's knowing that peace is more valuable than proving a point. It's knowing that love doesn't demand suffering. It's knowing that when something requires you to constantly fight for your place, it's not your throne. She doesn't need to burn bridges or wish ill on anyone. Her energy is too sacred for that. She just lets go, trusting that her path will unfold exactly as it's meant to. And as she walks away, she doesn't look back with regret. She looks back with love, love for who she was, love for what she learned, and love for the strength it took to leave. Because the truth is, walking away is not an act of losing. It's an act of remembering. Remembering that she has always been enough, even when others failed to see it. Remembering that her peace is priceless. Remembering that she doesn't have to chase what's already hers by nature. Her worth, her power, her grace. And that's why a queen knows when to walk away. Because her silence, her dignity, and her peace will always speak louder than her pain. A queen reigns not because of what she owns, but because of who she is. Her throne is not made of gold or jewels. It's built within her. It's the quiet power that comes from knowing herself deeply, from being grounded in her truth, and from standing firm in her essence, no matter what the world throws her way. She doesn't rule over others. She rules over her own mind, her own emotions, her own life. That's what makes her reign unshakable. Her power doesn't depend on anything outside of her. Not validation, not approval, not circumstance. It comes from within, from a place so rooted that no storm can move it. She's not driven by the need to impress anyone. She doesn't wake up trying to prove her worth to the world, because she already knows it. She has faced her shadows, she has met her fears, and she has learned that the real battle is always within. The moment she mastered herself, she became untouchable. Because once you understand your own soul, once you've made peace with your flaws and your strengths alike, nothing outside of you can define you anymore. That's the kind of freedom most people spend their lives chasing. But she already lives it, quietly, gracefully, powerfully. Her reign is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It shows in how she carries herself, in her calm, in her choices, in the way she treats others. Even in silence, her energy speaks. You can feel it when she walks into a room, that stillness, that unspoken confidence, that presence that says, "I don't chase, I attract." She doesn't need to prove her power, because she's embodied it. She's learned that a true queen never rules through fear or dominance. She rules through alignment. Her heart and mind move together, not against each other. She's found balance, and that balance gives her strength. She doesn't get caught in the noise of the world anymore. She knows that the world will always have opinions. One moment they'll praise you, the next they'll judge you. But she doesn't let that shape her path. She's learned to listen to her own intuition, the quiet voice within that has guided her through every challenge, every heartbreak, every transformation. That voice, her inner wisdom, is her crown. It's what allows her to move with certainty even when the way forward isn't clear. Because she trusts herself. And that trust, that unshakable faith in her own strength, is what makes her reign real. There was a time when she thought power came from control, from having everything figured out, from keeping everything and everyone in order. But she's learned that real power comes from surrender, from letting life unfold, from accepting what she can't change, from finding peace in the unknown. She doesn't resist life anymore, she flows with it. She understands that not every storm is meant to destroy her. Some storms come to clear her path, to strip away what's false, to reveal what's real. That's how she's learned to reign. Not by holding on tightly, but by standing tall in the middle of change. Knowing that her roots run deep enough to weather anything. Her reign is not about dominance, it's about depth. It's about knowing her emotions and mastering them instead of being ruled by them. She doesn't suppress her feelings. She understands them, feels them, and then releases them. That's emotional intelligence, the quiet strength that keeps her grounded when others lose balance. She knows that true power is not about reacting. It's about responding. It's not about control, it's about awareness. And so she reigns with presence. She knows that being aware, being conscious, being connected to herself is the most powerful state a person can live in. Her reign is also her grace. She forgives easily, not because others deserve it, but because she deserves peace. She doesn't carry resentment, she carries lessons. She doesn't stay bitter, she transforms pain into wisdom. She understands that everything she's been through, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every loss, has shaped her into the woman she is now. And instead of regretting the past, she bows to it with gratitude. Because she knows it was all preparing her for this, for the woman who reigns not over others, but over herself. You see, when a queen reigns from within, she doesn't need recognition. Her validation doesn't come from being admired, it comes from being aligned. She no longer chases love that costs her peace, opportunities that cost her authenticity, or approval that costs her freedom. She knows that when she stands in her truth, the right people, the right doors, the right blessings naturally find their way to her. Her energy becomes magnetic, not because she's trying to attract, but because she simply is. Her existence becomes her statement. Her peace becomes her power. Her authenticity becomes her crown. Every choice she makes comes from awareness, not reaction. Every step she takes is intentional. And even when she's quiet, her presence has weight, not because she demands attention, but because she commands respect through the way she lives. That's what it means to reign. It's not about being seen. It's about being sovereign. It's about being so whole within yourself that no one's absence, no one's opinion, no one's rejection can shake you. Because your worth is no longer negotiable. Her reign is a reminder that when a woman truly knows herself, she becomes unstoppable. When she learns that her peace is more important than people's approval. When she chooses alignment over attention, and when she replaces competition with creation, she becomes the kind of force that cannot be measured. She becomes timeless, grounded, and radiant in her stillness. And that's why a queen reigns from within, because she knows the world may try to take everything from her, but as long as she remains true to herself, she will never lose her crown.